The rain poured over Port Charles like the city itself was grieving. At the edge of the pier, Ethan Lovett stood motionless beneath the dark sky, the collar of his leather jacket soaked from the storm. The wind whipped against him, but he barely noticed. His phone trembled in his hand as the words replayed again and again inside his head. Phoebe's been hurt. It's serious. Those 5 words had shattered everything. Inside General Hospital, chaos had already begun spreading through the corridors. Nurses whispered, doctors rushed from room to room, and somewhere upstairs, people Ethan once trusted were hiding secrets that would change Port Charles forever. Because Phoebe wasn't just injured, someone wanted her silenced. And Ethan was about to walk away from everything after discovering the horrifying truth. Earlier that evening, Ethan had been sitting at Charlie's pub with Christina, joking about Sonny's latest drama and pretending life in Port Charles was normal for once. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, Ethan would have ignored it, but something told him not to. Hello? Static. Then a frightened voice. Mr. Lovett, Phoebe was attacked. Ethan froze. What? She's at General Hospital now. You need to come quickly. The call disconnected. Christina immediately noticed the color draining from his face. Ethan, what happened? But he was already grabbing his jacket. By the time Ethan arrived at General Hospital, the emergency floor was in complete turmoil. Doctors rushed past him, monitors beeped frantically, and standing outside Trauma Room 3 was Elizabeth Baldwin, looking devastated. Liz, Ethan said breathlessly, where's Phoebe? Elizabeth hesitated. That hesitation terrified him more than anything. She's alive, Liz finally whispered, but the injuries are severe. Ethan's heart pounded violently. How did this happen? They found her car off Route 41, Elizabeth explained. At first, police thought it was an accident, but the brakes were cut. Ethan stared at her in disbelief. Someone tried to kill her? Elizabeth lowered her eyes. We think so. Phoebe's name carried ghosts through Port Charles. Years ago, her tragic death had devastated countless lives. But in this shocking spoiler twist, rumors had swirled for months that the woman believed dead had secretly survived through witness protection tied to an old Cassadine conspiracy. Only a handful of people knew the truth. Ethan was one of them, and now someone had discovered she was alive. As he stood outside the trauma room, guilt overwhelmed him. He should have protected her. Instead, he let her stay hidden alone while enemies circled closer. Just as Ethan prepared to enter Phoebe's room, another familiar voice stopped him. Don't go in there yet. Ethan turned to see Lucky Spencer approaching from the elevator. Lucky Spencer looked exhausted, his face tense with fear. You knew. Ethan snapped. Lucky grabbed his arm. Keep your voice down. You knew she was in danger and said nothing? Lucky glanced around carefully before leaning closer. This wasn't random. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then who did it? Lucky hesitated. The same people who came after Luke years ago. That name hit like lightning. Luke Spencer, Ethan's father. Dead, yet somehow still haunting everything. Lucky finally revealed the secret he had been hiding. Phoebe had recently uncovered financial records tied to an offshore account connected to the Cassadines. Evidence suggested millions of dollars had been moved through shell companies linked to illegal weapons deals. But there was worse. One name appeared repeatedly in the files. Someone currently living in Port Charles. Someone powerful. Someone willing to kill to keep the truth buried. She was going to expose them, Lucky admitted. That's why they came after her. Ethan ran a hand through his wet hair, fury burning inside him. Who is it? Lucky looked him dead in the eye. I think it's Brennan. The revelation changed everything. Jack Brennan had spent months carefully building trust inside Port Charles. Charming, intelligent, dangerous beneath the surface. Many suspected Brennan had secrets, but attempted murder? Even Ethan struggled to believe it. Yet pieces suddenly fit together. Phoebe had mentioned feeling watched. Unknown cars outside her apartment. Mysterious phone calls. And 2 days ago, she'd told Ethan something that now haunted him. If anything happens to me, "Don't trust Brennan." At the time, Ethan thought paranoia was getting to her. Now he realized she had been terrified. Before Ethan could process everything, Carly Corinthos entered the hallway. Carly Corinthos immediately sensed tension between Ethan and Lucky. "What's going on?" Neither man answered. Carly's eyes narrowed. "This is about Brennan, isn't it?" Ethan looked stunned. "You know something too?" Carly crossed her arms. "I know Brennan's been lying to everyone." Lucky exchanged a grim look with Ethan. Carly continued carefully. "Yesterday, I saw him arguing with someone near Pier 55. He kept saying, 'She wasn't supposed to survive.'" Silence. The implication chilled all three of them. Phoebe survived the attack, and whoever ordered it now knew she could expose them. When Ethan finally entered Phoebe's hospital room, his entire world collapsed. Machines surrounded her bed, bruises covered her face, a bandage wrapped around her head while tubes monitored every fragile breath. She looked so small, so broken. Ethan slowly sat beside her, taking her hand carefully. "I'm here," he whispered. No response. Tears filled his eyes despite every effort to stay strong. He had spent years running from pain, hiding behind jokes and charm like his father once did. But this was different. Phoebe mattered, maybe more than he ever admitted. "I should have protected you," he whispered painfully. For one brief second, her fingers twitched against his. And then the monitor suddenly spiked. Alarms exploded throughout the room. Doctors stormed inside. "Nurse, crash cart now!" Ethan stumbled backward as Elizabeth rushed in beside the surgical team. "What's happening?" Ethan shouted. "She's crashing." The next few minutes felt endless. Defibrillators charged. Doctors yelled instructions. Ethan watched helplessly as Phoebe's body jerked violently from electric shocks. "Clear!" Flatline, again. "Clear!" Nothing. Elizabeth's expression turned grim. Ethan felt the ground beneath him disappearing. Then, suddenly, a beep. Another. Heartbeat restored. The room erupted with relief. But Elizabeth's face remained troubled. "She's stable for now," she told Ethan quietly. "But if she wakes up, she could identify whoever attacked her. And that meant the danger was far from over." Across town, Brennan sat alone in a dark office staring out the window. Rain slammed against the glass. A mysterious caller spoke through a distorted voice on speakerphone. "You promised this would be handled." Brennan's jaw tightened. It almost was. Almost isn't good enough. Brennan poured himself another drink. She wasn't supposed to survive the crash. The caller went silent for a moment before asking the question that changed everything. "What about Ethan?" Brennan's eyes darkened. "He's becoming a problem." Later that night, Lucky returned with devastating information. The brakes on Phoebe's car had been professionally sabotaged. But that wasn't the worst part. Security footage from the parking garage showed someone near her vehicle hours before the crash. Ethan stared at the grainy image. Then his blood ran cold. It wasn't Brennan. It was someone he considered family. Robert Scorpio. Ethan stepped backward in disbelief. "No!" Lucky looked equally shaken. "We don't know the full story yet." But Ethan's mind raced uncontrollably. Had Robert betrayed them? Was he protecting someone? Or had Ethan misunderstood everything? Suddenly, nothing in Port Charles felt safe anymore. Carly later found Ethan alone outside the hospital, staring into the storm. "You look like you're about to disappear," she said softly. Ethan laughed bitterly. "Maybe I should." Carly frowned. "Don't say that." "You know what happens to people here?" Ethan snapped. "Everyone gets hurt. Luke, Lucky, Lulu, Spencer, now Phoebe." He looked emotionally shattered. This town destroys people. Carly understood that pain better than anyone. But before she could answer, Ethan revealed the decision that stunned her. "I'm leaving Port Charles." "You can't be serious." "I am." "Phoebe needs you." Ethan shook his head. "No, Phoebe needs safety. And as long as she's connected to me, she'll never have it." Carly's voice softened. "You love her." Ethan looked away silently. That silence confirmed everything. But Ethan believed staying would only bring more danger. His father's enemies had become his enemies. And now innocent people were paying the price. "I won't wait around for the next body bag," he whispered. The next morning, nurses discovered Ethan gone. No luggage, no warning. Only a handwritten envelope left beside Phoebe's hospital bed. Elizabeth carefully opened it while Lucky stood nearby. Inside was a heartbreaking letter. "Phoebe, if you're reading this, it means you survived. I wish I could stay and protect you, but everyone close to me ends up hurt. I spent years pretending I could outrun my family's darkness. I can't. You deserve peace far away from Port Charles and far away from me. I'll always love you. Ethan." Elizabeth wiped tears from her eyes. Lucky looked devastated. And upstairs, an unconscious Phoebe remained unaware that Ethan had just walked out of her life, possibly forever. Meanwhile, Anna Devane launched her own investigation into the attack. The more evidence she uncovered, the more disturbing things became. The brake tampering linked back to a covert WSB operation buried decades earlier, one that involved Luke Spencer, Robert Scorpio, and possibly even Victor Cassadine before his death. Anna quickly realized Phoebe's attack wasn't merely personal revenge. Someone was cleaning up old secrets, and Ethan might now be their next target. Hours later, Ethan sat alone inside the airport terminal, passport in hand, boarding call approaching. Yet he couldn't move. Every memory of Port Charles flooded through him. Luke teaching him card tricks, Lucky welcoming him like a brother, Carly laughing at one of his terrible jokes, and Phoebe smiling at him on the pier weeks earlier. For a moment, he almost stood up to leave. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number again. Ethan answered cautiously. A weak voice whispered through static. "Don't go." His entire body froze. "Phoebe?" Breathing trembled on the other end. They lied. Robert didn't do it. The call suddenly cut out. Ethan stared at the dead line in shock. Phoebe was awake, and she knew the truth. Back at General Hospital, panic erupted after nurses discovered Phoebe missing from her room. Security cameras showed a hooded figure wheeling her stretcher through a restricted exit minutes earlier. Elizabeth screamed for security. Anna demanded lockdown procedures. Lucky immediately tried calling Ethan, but Ethan's phone had already been turned off. Meanwhile, somewhere on a deserted road outside Port Charles, a black SUV disappeared into the fog. Inside the vehicle, Phoebe lay barely conscious beside a mysterious figure. Then the driver finally spoke. "You should have stayed dead." Phoebe's terrified eyes widened, because she recognized the voice instantly, and viewers were left stunned as the screen faded to black. To be continued. Thank you for watching. Write what you think about it. Subscribe to the channel.